No, she said that everything going fine with it.
Everything's going pretty good. The rural utility services didn't have enough money to completely fund it. They're still short $211,000 on their grant money. That and the infrastructure council, which is basically the only funding left, and we've done all the preliminary design and are well into the final design. So it's moving along pretty good, and I haven't really seen any big issues.
And the self-help are just delayed, right? In
The
area.
one, what is it,
Man's Knob,
well, no.
Cold Branch.
Cold Branch is finished, they finished it, Man's Knob, they ordered the materials. They got tied up
Yeah.
with some flood damage, but I think they're anticipating like late this month or right after the 4th of July of starting on the Man's Knob.
And put on your reminder list, the Big Ugly project too. We do have the money for that 2 miles. So wonder if we can get
Well, see, we've got that design, we haven't moved forward with the permits and stuff yet, but it's the self-help part of it, which is like 30 families, I believe,
something.
is designed, so.
As long as we get this other, we just will move
Right,
forward.
yeah, just keep moving like that.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Next thing on the agenda is Rick McDowell concerning school counselors.
Welcome, Rick.
Wanted to talk to you some more about school counselors. To get an update on where we are.
Rick and I met and talked about this, and I encourage him to come to the commission and make his request known.
Just a little bit of background. In 2008, the County Board of Education received 2 federal grants to bring counselors into the school, so the ratio of students to counselors met what was suggested by the state. The grant was a 3-year grant. There was a little bit of money left over after the 3 years that took us into the current school year, the 2011-2012 school year. At this time, the board feels like they don't have enough money to continue with the same number of counselors as the grant provided. So they're talking about for 2012, 2013, reducing the number from 13, which was what the federal monies got us up to, back to 8. And if you look at this little chart, it shows you 2011, 2012, what we were at to get to the 13. And what's proposed for the 2012, 2013. So what the board has done is they've, at Guyan Valley Middle and Ranger, each of which had a counselor apiece, they've created a part-time position at each. So they still have all the schools covered, but they don't have full-time people. One of our big concerns is especially in the pre-K 8 schools, where we only have one counselor. We're afraid the one counselor is going to have to spend his time or her time probably working with the squirrely middle school kids rather than the elementary kids, and we won't have anybody working with the elementary school kids. So currently it's reduced from 13 to 8. The Benedum Foundation is meeting later this month. They've got a proposal to fund at $120,000 for 2 school years, and $120,000 would cover 2 counselors. The estimate from the board is that with the match of the board and all the unemployment, workers' comp, all those kinds of things that the board matches, retirement, it's about $60,000 at a counselor position. So the hope is that Benedum's gonna come through with the $120,000. That would take us from 8 to 10. We'd still be 3 short. Okay? The West Virginia Department of Education has a new project that they're calling Innovation Zone Grants. And they've talked to folks at the Board of Education about the Innovation Zone Grants. The board would be able to apply for these, and they'd be able to use the funding for counselors. The problem is that the conservation zone grants wouldn't roll over and money wouldn't be available until January. So the problem is, how do we get from 10 to 13 from now until January? And the thought is that it's gonna cost, that'd be about, if you figure the three people at half of their salary for half of the year, we're $90,000 short. So that's where we are at this point. If we really wanna continue the counselors at the level that we've been at, which is 13.
And I didn't agree giving him any money, but I told him that I'd be willing to bring it up and discuss it with the commission, that some scenario is this $100,000 that we have given once for the bridge, that we've switched to the ball field, that if the board was comfortable enough, and this commission would agree, that we would, say, make a motion or something, say, well, it would be agreeable with this commission if you decide to use $90,000 of that money when you need it now for counselors, and maybe the ball field out of the bond or something like that, but that's the only thing I can come up with. That's not too ingenious, but it's money out there that's been, they haven't done anything with the $100,000. It's still laying down there. No ball field's been built, nothing's been done, so, this either will give them money that they can do counseling with, or they may get scared and do something to the ball field. I'm not sure, but,
And the ball field is part of the bond.
I understood that.
That's my understanding too. But-
So, anyway, just, I don't know when Rick has to have a decision on it, but that was the only thing I could come up with, because it's money we've already given to the board. I guess, sort of like, now you see it, now you don't, but.
So the state, through the state aid formula will allow the county to have 5, and that's the only,
The thing at the bottom, yes, the state, the current state aid, the state aid formula is a little crazy when it comes to counselors. They're not in the, your state aid formula, you have a teacher's block, and then you've got, I'm not sure what the proper term is, like other people in the block, and it includes counselors and nurses, they're sort of lumped together. And there's enough money in that part of the block for, I think I knew this already, I think it's 8 positions, 3 nurses and 5 counselors. So that's where we are now. Then 3 are gonna be funded, 3 positions would be funded solely out of county needs, not just overreach. It wouldn't be funded through the state aid.
and the local boards agree to fund through it.
That gives us, that's those at the bottom, the 5 and the 3, that's the 8. And they've agreed on the 8.
You've got a grant possibly coming that would pick up in January, or something.
And we got the Benedum grant that's hopefully
But
gonna happen
the
in June.
innovation grant,
Now, these nurses, are they working, I mean, how's that set up? Where are they at? Nurses in the school system? You know where
I
they-
work for you guys.
Well, no,
I'm not
I
positive.
just wondered
I think
if.
there's one, I
Cause the
think
one at
there's one,
Hamlin's Lincoln Primary, isn't it? Don't they get?
Well,
clinic
they-
there?
there is a county school nurse that works at the high school. I don't know if it's the only place she works, but then there are 2 more people.
And they had a clinic for Lincoln Primary.
In addition, the clinic is there at the high school.
Maybe that seems a little redundant, doesn't it? Because they had staff. I know, the reason I bring this up is I know the new school, K through 8 at Hart, Valley Health was
Valley
talking
Health is
about
coming.
providing a nurse and, or
Yes.
even a physician or
Mhm.
PA or something over there.
Mhm.
And to me, if they go that route, and do that, then that frees up another position for a counselor, because you're not gonna be paying for a nurse that's already gonna be there, which would be required. I would think Lincoln Primary has one there, and then I would think that Valley would have one.
They have a provider, I think it's a PA.
Yeah, that's even at a higher level than the nursing fee, so, I don't know if it,
I'm
I'm
not
just
sure,
trying to figure that
yeah,
out.
I don't know, I'm not sure if the
The state aid
PA.
formula, even if you were allowed 3 nurses and 5 counselors, you could say we only need 2 nurses, we'll use the extra money for counseling. I mean, it's just, ridiculous
Very
bureaucracy that's
tight.
not good to poor counties.
So, I mean, I'm not the spokesperson for the Board of Ed for this, but, both the superintendent of schools and the financial director know that, they've both seen this, and they understand that, you know, what we're doing, and all the numbers match with their numbers.
I would offer a motion to allow the school board to use up to 90,000 of the 100 that's available for the football facilities to meet the needs of the Benedum grant.
Well, it'd be to.
To carry them until the Benedum
Pick up
grant.
from the innovation
unserved,
grant,
the
right?
innovation.
I would offer that motion with that.
I'll second.
Give a motion, second. Again, let the school board make that decision, basically. Being all yes vote, motion carries.
It's a little bothersome that, you know, $100,000 on a, and I'm not saying one's more important than the other, I'm just saying that $100,000 in a facility that all the kids you could think could use is kind of better than putting somebody's salary for two people for 1 year. I mean, that's not a solution to the problem we're gonna have after that year, so, but anyway.
And there has been discussion about perhaps, you know, when we go to the levy, not the bond, but when we go to the levy, somehow the levy reflects the need for counselors.
And these counselors are so vital. I mean, they have helped so much in the schools, and having one at each school, you could just see the difference in the kids' lives.
I'd like to say, as far as WV Extension Service is concerned, we absolutely endorse this because our programming, we have such a difficult time just with scheduling getting into the schools. And the counselors and the parent coordinators are really where we go. Sherry Flynn does the family nutrition programming for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. She utilizes counselors quite a bit to try and schedule and get into schools. So, I mean, nutritional issues are a big issue. And it's true that it's only 2 years of salaries or whatever, but the long-range impact of seeing these counselors stay in these schools, you know, it's really hard to measure that, but I can tell you that it will have a pretty significant impact on our programming abilities. So this funding is going to also support our office and what we do, even though it's not directly coming to us, because it's just a vital role for us to see counselors there. And the ones I've worked with, and I've worked with almost all of them, they have made it so much better for me to get in and do the programming that I need to do or would like to do, and also with programming that Sherry Flynn does with these children and their nutritional issues. And so I absolutely, I'm glad to see and support and endorse the idea of having all these counselors remain where they are.
You try to protect us when those football coaches come after us.
Well, you call me. Walk the walk, talk the talk.
What happens if you don't get the Innovation Zone grant or the Bedlam grant? I mean, what's the school's long-term plan for that? And after we give them the $90,000, what are they gonna do in the future?
That's a good question.
It's a Band-Aid, all it is.
Yes.
Well, I think that's where we need to start the discussion we did about, you know, how do we solve this problem long-term? Because that's what's gonna impact the most kids you know, for the greatest period of time, is to have a funding mechanism where these people don't have to worry about where they got a job the next year and things of that nature. We don't have to worry about, you know, taking monies from this to rolling Peter to pay Paul and things like that,
So you did say that they're going to look at building into the next levy?
Well, it's being discussed. There's no commitment at this point. I mean, another thing may be, I don't know whether it's even possible to change the school aid formula. That'd be a legislative decision, but so that you didn't separate out nurses and counselors into this little tiny group, that became part of the total idea of what's important for schools.
If you look at the impact, I know it's money up front, but as you said, if you look at children that start early with counselors, and that's support mechanism, that go up through elementary, middle, high school, so many of those kids continue on, they don't drop out, they're more successful. So the money it stings a little bit now, but the rewards are so beneficial.
Well, the data we've got about school attendance and reduction in dropout, I mean, it's just, it's a cost saving. You
Yeah.
save money if you can continue.
A good counselor, definitely worth the money, a good,
So is this something that the commission would
we will
talk to?
send a letter, I think, to
Tricia?
the school board and advise them what position we've taken, clarify that, and offer, meet and talk about it, whatever.
Do you know, I know the bond that's being talked about, that's gonna be floated, the football facility, are they averaging in the 100,000 we've already given
No,
to
I'm
meet
not
the needs?
sure.
They've talked about your 100,000 and their 100,000. When they were discussing the cost of the fields, the architects mentioned that 200,000 as well. They haven't forgotten about it.
And they may not want to do it,
No, they
that's
may
their
not.
choice.
But I've been told that the monies that's there, the 100,000, the interest that it's drawing is being put back into that same account, so it's not a whole lot.
If I've got
Careful,
$100,000, $1.
1%. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick, just getting in and trying to help out.
Next thing on the agenda is